Hi everyone, welcome to Stitch and Crochet Creations by Harriet, and today marks my very first crochet tutorial on this channel after so many requests. So today I'll be showing you how to crochet this beautiful clutch bag using a t-shirt yarn. It's a stylish and modern design that is so beginner friendly, so everyone can do it. I'll guide you through every step from the materials you need to fulfilling this bag. If you're watching this channel for your very first time, I'll appreciate your support. And since this is my very first tutorial, I'll be pleased if you could comment by telling me where you're watching from and what you would like me to crochet next. So this is one side of the bag I made already, and we'll be doing the other side and completing the bag together. So this is what we'll be producing in the first place. So we'll be using a stitch marker, a 5mm crochet hook. We'll need a pair of scissors, a measuring tape, one skein of 200 grams t-shirt elastic yarn, and of course the handles. So the handles I'm using, they measure 9.5 to 20 centimeters. So here I did 21 stitches. So if you do 21 stitches, you're actually going to work on 20 stitches. So if you want the back larger than this one, you need to do more stitches. So this is 21 stitches, which will work on 20 stitches. So if you do 23, you'll be working on 22 stitches. If you do 24, you'll be working on 23 stitches. That's based on this pattern. So we'll start with 21 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So as I said, the number of stitches here will always be one less when you start working. So we did 6 stitches, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll be working on 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But we actually did 6 because the first one doesn't count as a stitch. So with 21 stitches, you should get these 20 stitches. So let's count together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We did 21 stitches simply because this very first one doesn't count as a stitch. So let's go ahead and mark the front side of our work, which should be this one. Put a stitch marker here and we'll keep it permanently, so we can always refer to ourselves as the front part. So you want to do your turning stitch for the start, and for this pattern, for the first 4 rows, we will be doing increases at the 7th stitch. So every 7th stitch from this end will do increases for the first 4 rows. So let me show you how we're gonna do it. So for the start, you want to count 7 from any of the ends, it doesn't matter, but always be careful because this, the first one you see here after the hook, is not your stitch because it was your turning stitch, so it's not one of your chain foundation stitches. This is a turning stitch, so you don't count it as a stitch, but you count this one 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So for the basis of this pattern, we'll be doing it on the 7th stitch. So I close it in the 7th on, oh, not this, I took this off. I'm not supposed to take this off because this is the front part of our work, but I'll use the other stitch. So remember, this was your starting stitch, which we didn't count as a stitch. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So this is your 7th stitch. So we'll be doing increases when we reach at these points, and I'll show you how we do it. So at this point, after you do the turning stitch, let me do it again so you see. So a turning stitch is just you making the end of the row. That's the turning stitch. So you want to come this way, and on every 7 stitch you'll be doing an increase. So for the basis of this tutorial, we'll be doing our stitches on, this is the back, so facing me will be the back and away will be the front. Okay, so we'll be doing our stitches only on the front stitches, so the front loop of the stitch. Okay, on the front loop. So we go in 1 2 3 4 5 6, and this is the 7th stitch. So on this 7th stitch we're doing an increase. So an increase will just be 2 times, 1 and 2 times on the same loop, the same front loop, okay, of the stitch. So we continue now. In between we have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 and 6. Okay, so at this point, this is the 7th stitch as we marked. So we're doing another increase here. An increase is 2 times, 1 2. We continue. So we go to the end again. 1 2 3 4 5 and 6, and at this point you do your turn stitch. So we are done with the first part of the front side of the first row, and then we're going to the back side of the first row. So at this back side we'll be doing increases at this point. Sorry, we'll be doing decreases at this point. So on this side we'll be doing decreases where we have the stitch marker. Remember, on the front side we did increases, putting 2 in the same hole, but on this side we're doing decreases. So what you do is the 7th stitch and the 8th stitch, you bring them together and put them on the stitch with the stitch marker, which is the 7th stitch here. And the same here, from here to here, the 7 and the 8, you bring it here. So what the technique you use when you do the stitches, wherever you have this, on that stitch you're doing either an increase or a decrease. So it's either 2 going into it or 2 going out of it. 2 going into it is a decrease. So this one going into it and this one going into it. This one going into it and this one going into it. 2 going out is an increase because we have 2. Or any way you want to see it, that's how I just like to refer to it. But any way you see it, it's the same thing. So I'll show you. Let's do the decrease together now. So this is the back side. So we'll come here. Remember, these are turning stitch, so we don't stitch on this one. Come to this one. We'll come to the very first one here. So if you notice, we take the first loop up and the one down. So the pattern goes for the 2 loops, and that's how we'll do it all through. So the loop up, the loop down. So half loop up and the other half down. This is 5. This is 6. And this is 7. So on the 7th stitch, this is the first one. So as I said, we're doing decreases. So we'll take the 8th stitch and still put it on the 7th stitch where we have the stitch marker. So that's the decrease. So it equalizes with the number of stitches on the front part. Okay, I'll show you again. So at this point, we want to continue with this 6 in between, 6 stitches in between. So it should be 6 stitches again here. 3, 4, 5, and 6. So at 6, if you see, we've reached the next stitch that goes to the stitch marker. So because there's a stitch marker here and we're at the back, we know we are doing a decrease. That means this first one will go into this stitch marker and the second one will go into the stitch marker still. So making a decrease. So 2 of them going in, 2 of them going into this one. So on the back side, it's always the same. We're doing decreases and it's the same thing all through. So we'll take the first one and the second decrease will be this one going back into this very stitch marker. Is going back into this first stitch marker. So for clarity's sake, we did this first one into the stitch marker. Here it is. And the second one, we're doing the same thing, going back into the stitch marker. Okay, so we did the decrease. So on the front side, we do an increase, and the back side, we do a decrease. So from here, we just continue with our single crochets all through to the end, taking the loop, half loop up and the half loop down till the end. Always be careful because you might lose the last stitch, which is the first stitch of every row, because sometimes it looks like hidden in here. So we do our turning stitch and voila, we're done with our first row. So this is the back side and this is the front side. Okay, so we're done with our first row. This is how it looks. Okay, so for the second row, we'll do the very same thing we've done on the first row. Let's do this again together. So we take up our stitch markers from the first row and with your work facing this way, you count. This is a turning stitch, so we do not count this one. However, you go ahead to count the next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So on the 7th stitch, we want to put our stitch marker. We lock it in. And on this side, it's trying to hide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is our 7th stitch. So I'm putting it in here. So if you notice, like this is the front side. So my stitch marker is never on this first side down. It's always on the back end towards me, because I know when I walk this way, I'll come the other way I walk. However, you could do it here, but you simply mean whenever you come to the next row, you need to count again 7 to know which one you're walking on. So I prefer to put it here because this will always be 7 from here and from here. So, and on this other side, I'll still have exactly the stitch marker where I want it to be. So on the next row, we'll do exactly the same thing we did on the first row. So this is the second row. Trying to put it so you can see clearly. Okay, so let's get started. So we take this, the first half loop up after the turning stitch, the first half loop up and the next one down, the first stitch down, that's 1. Go into this one, that's 2. This one and this one, that's 3. This one and this one, 4. The next 2, 5. The next 2, 6. And the 7th stitch. So on the 7th stitch is our increase. On this side, I said increasing, you're putting 2 in the hole. 1 and 2 stitches. 2 stitches in the hole. So we continue now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you discovered on the first row we had 6 stitches in between the stitch markers. Now on the second row we've increased by 2 stitches, so it becomes 8 stitches here. Okay, 8 stitches here. So our increase and decrease, though it equalized, but it actually gave us 2 stitches on the next row to work on. So this is the 7th stitch, and we're on the first the front part, so it's a double, it's an increase. 1 and 2. So we go now to the next, which are just normal double crochets, up and down, up, down, go through. We go through the up, down, and then the very last one, as I said, you always need to be careful because the last one is always kind of hidden. And we do our turning stitch. Okay, we're done with the front side. This is the front side, we're done with it. So we go now to the back side. The back side is our decrease. The back side is going to be our decrease. Okay, so this is our decrease side. So at this point, we'll take 7 and put into 7 down here, and take 8 and put into 7 down here. At this other point, we'll take the 8 stitch and put in the 7, and the 7 stitch and put in the 7, because they are decreases. And now this middle, after that, will increase to, because we're at 6, we're at 8 now. So when we complete the second row, we'll be having a difference of 10 here. Okay, so let's start. Up and down, you pull through. Up and down, you pull through. 2. Up and down, you pull through. 3. Up and down, you pull through. 4. Up and down, you pull through. 5. Up and down, you pull through. 6. And on the 7, you're doing your decrease. So you take here, you go into the stitch marker, you pull through, and you take now the 8th stitch, you still put it at the same stitch of the stitch marker, you pull through, because your decrease, you're at the back, and you keep going. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. On the 8th point, you see exactly where the stitch marker is. Okay, so at this point, what you want to do is you come to this where we have the stitch marker is a decrease. So the first one you pull through, however, the second one will be your decrease. So you go into it and you go into the very stitch marker stitch and you pull through. So 1, 2, we should have 6 stitches here. 3, 4, 5, and the 6th stitch, and we're done. So we do our turning stitch. So this is it. Okay. So this is the second row. This is the front part and this is the back part. Okay. This is the second row. We're done with it. So what we want to go ahead and do is take off our stitch markers. Take off our stitch marker. Now we will do the third row and the fourth row the very same way. So on every 7 stitch, this is how I'll be stitching. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On this 7th stitch, I'll put my stitch marker. And on the 7th stitch from here, always be careful, as I said, because the last one is kind of hidden. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So put my stitch marker on the 7th stitch. So on this front side, I'll be doing an increase, and when I turn and I'm on this other side, I'll do a decrease. So we will do the third row and the fourth row and meet at the end of the fourth row. Okay, so you do the third row and the fourth row, and we'll meet at the end of the fourth row. So if you are done with your fourth row, we should have something like this. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth row on the front side. On the back side, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So from the 5th row, because the 3rd row and the 4th row were done exactly how you did the 1st and the 2nd row. So, but from the 5th row, we're going to start decreasing. Okay, we are going to start decreasing. However, for the 5th row, we'll start by putting our stitch markers in the same position, but the 7th row will change. So the stitch marker will go in the same position. So the 7th stitch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We put our stitch marker here. This is your 5th row. You're about to start. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're about to start the 5th row. Okay. Put our stitch markers here. Now what we will do on this row is we will start our decreases at the edges. So this will start coming in this way. Start coming in this way. Okay, so how you want to do it, when you start on this end, we did 7, we put the stitch marker on the 7th stitch here, and we're putting the stitch marker again on the 7th stitch this way. So when you start here, you'll do your normal increase on the 7th stitch here. You'll do your normal increase again on the 7th stitch here because this is the front row, but you'll do some decreases at this end for the 5th row. So for the 5th row, you won't start with the decrease I'm saying we'll continue going up with on the front row at the edge, the start, no, but instead at the end of the front row, you start your decrease. So here, and when you come back this way, you do another decrease, and from there, every edge you'll be doing a decrease. But because we're starting the first stitch of the 5th row, is not going to be a decrease. We're not going to decrease this end, but we'll decrease this other far end. I'll show you how we'll do it. Okay, let's get started. So here we go. So I said no decreases here. So we're going off normally. My turning stitch, first of all, do not have it. So do my turning stitch. So we come here on the first stitch and the first one down here. Go through. You see? Next one, this is the second one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and on the 7th stitch is the 7th stitch, my increase stitch. 1, 2, I'm increasing. Okay, I keep going. So at this point, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Just as a reminder, so at this point you have 14 stitches. So went from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 and now 14. Okay, so we should be at 14 stitches on your feet. The stitches in between your stitch marker should be 14 on your feet row when you're doing the feet row. So this is our stitch marker. Again, we do our increase stitch, which is 2 in the 1. Then this is where we'll do our decrease. Now at this point, this is where we're going to do our decrease. Okay, so we go 1, because there are 6, right? 2, it's been 6 all throughout the edges. 3 before the stitch marker. 4. So when you do your 4th stitch after the stitch marker, you're left with 2 stitches, 1 and 2. This is our decrease stitch. So what we want to go ahead and do is we pull through up and down as we've done. We bring it out. However, you don't complete your single crochet, you go to the next one again, up and down, you pull through. So now you have the 2 together. So you pull through all, and now that's your decrease. Okay, so this is how your decrease stitch should look like. These 2 go in as one stitch. So when you turn your work on the back side, so this is your first stitch after your 10th stitch, right? This is your first stitch. So you do have a first stitch here on the back side of the first row. This first stitch, like we've always taken, so from here onward, we're not taking the first stitch anymore, but we'll be working on the second stitches. Okay, so because it is a decrease here, there were 2 here, that means we'll just work on 1. So what you want to do is go to the second one, and this is the second one. This is the first, this is the second. So you go to the second one, you pull through, and you continue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of 6 stitches for the stitch marker, we're having 5. So here we go do our decrease because we are at the back. The same thing. Go here and go into the stitch of the stitch marker, which is the decrease. So we want to keep going. 1, we'll do our stitches now in between. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 stitches in between. So on the next one is the one that has a stitch marker. This one, the 15, is the one that has a stitch marker. So it's our decrease stitch because we're at the back. So we go 1, we go to the next one, we go back into it, you pull through, you decrease. So that's your decrease. Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So at 4 we are having two other stitches. At this end we're having 2 other stitches. So these are decrease stitches. So this is what we do. You go in 1, you pull through, you go to the next, you still pull through. Okay, you pull everything through and close it up. 10 stitch. So we're done with the 5th row. So this is how the back side looks. So if you see, at this end we went in, at this other end we did go in too. So let me turn to the front. Notice the front because of the stitch marker. So you see the same thing. We're not done with this, but it should be going in. Okay, so for the, this is the 5th row. So for the 6th row, we're not going to be putting the stitch marker anymore on the 7th stitch, but for the 6th row we're going to put the stitch marker on the 6th stitch, and for the 7th row we'll put the stitch marker on the 5th, the 8th row the stitch marker on the 4th, the 9th row the stitch marker on the 3rd, and that's where we'll stop. So we're going to do 9 rows for now, but the stitch marker, as you go progressively, goes 1 stitch short. So this is the 6th row. This is the 5th row. We did it on the 7th stitch. However, for the 6th row, we are going to be putting the stitch marker on the 6th stitch. So this being your turning stitch, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is our 6th stitch right here. And for this side, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's it. So this is the 6th row, and we're putting the stitch marker on the 6th stitch. For the 7th row, we're putting the stitch marker on the 7th stitch. Now, just as we did the back end of the 5th row by not putting this starting on the 1st stitch here, that is how we'll keep going. So at our edges from now, we will be putting our 1st stitches on the 2nd stitch. On the 2nd stitch, we'll keep doing this decrease until it becomes something like this. Okay, so however, this, the inner part, the line in between the stitches will keep increasing. Okay, it will keep increasing. So this one will be coming this way and this will be going outwards. Okay, because this increases here, keep increasing this number. So this is no longer going to be the same as it has been the same from here, but you can start reducing and shrinking towards the end. So let's do our 6th row, and then you can do the 7th row and the 8th row and the 9th row. Then we'll come back to doing the 10th row together. Okay, so again, for the 6th row, we have our stitch marker on the 6th stitch. Okay, so we're about to start. So as I said, you put your stitch, your hook on the 1st stitch here. However, when you come to the line below, you don't put it on the 1st one anymore. So we'll no longer be taking the 1st stitches of the edges, but we'll be working on the 2nd from now henceforth until we finish the 9th row. Okay, so this is the 6th row. You take it on 1, you put it in here. So that means before the stitch marker, this is 1. Before the stitch marker, there are 5 stitches because the stitch marker is on the 6th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5. So the 6th stitch is the increase stitch as usual. 1, we double it in. 2, so we'll keep going. 1, 2, so we should have 16 stitches now in between here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So we have 16 stitches in between. Now, this is where we have our stitch marker. So we go in, since it's on the front side of the seed row, it's a double, right? Just as we did a double here. 1, 2, so we start again. 1, 2, 3. So we do 3 here, 4 and 5. So for 4 and 5, we'll be doing our strings. So we'll pull through 4, and the feed one we pull through, then we pull through all of them, and we're done. So we did our decrease here. So we turn to the other side, and it's the same thing. We do not put our first stitch in the first half loop down here, but we start working on the second half loop. However, here we work normally. So we go through here normally, but we work on the second half loop, okay? On the second half loop. So working on the second half loop, right, of the back stitch of the second half loop of the back stitch of the seed back row of the seed row. So this is 1, this is 2 now, this is 3, and this is 4 instead, not 5, because we've reduced 1. So the stitch marker behind is a decrease. So 1, and the next one, then we'll go back into the same stitch of the stitch marker, pull through, okay, going. So we have 16 stitches in between. Just like this, just like this. 15 and the 16th. So here we have the stitch marker, so that means we're decreasing. So we'll pull through the first one, and we take the second one and still go through the same stitch of the stitch marker because it's a decrease. I hope by now you're able to know how to do your increases on the front side and your decreases on the back side without any issue. So we left with 2 stitches, okay? So 1, 2, and 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. So what we want to do is we do our decrease at this end as I showed you. So 1, 2, you go through it. 1, 2, you go through it again. So we're done. Okay, so you should have something like this. So after the seed row, this is what you should have. So it should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on this side, and on the back side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So when you're done with the seed row, remember the seed row, we put the stitch marker on the seed stitch. So on the 7th row, we'll be putting the stitch marker on the 7th stitch. So if you look at it, you see it's curving in, okay? So these ends, they'll keep going outwards, while these ends will keep coming inwards, okay? So what you want to do is, as I said, on the 7th row, you put your stitch marker on the 5th stitch. So come in here with your stitch markers. This is your turn stitch, of course. This is your turn stitch. So this is your turn stitch. So, oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your 5th stitch. Because you're on the 7th row, you're doing it on the 5th stitch. And from this other end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it on the 5th stitch. And in between here, you should have 18 stitches to work with for the 7th row. Do your 18 stitches in between. So for the 18th row, you will have 20 stitches in between. And for the 8th row, I said 18. For the 8th row, you will have 20 stitches to stitch on. For the 9th row, you should have 22 stitches to stitch on. And when we're working the 10th row, we should be stitching on 24 stitches, okay? So the 10th row will be 24 stitches we will be stitching on. We're working the 10th row. So just like this up till the end. And at the end, we do our decrease stitch to shrink the edges of the bag. So let's first of all do our back decrease, coming back again into it, and then keep going. 1 and 2, then we do our decrease, so into this, and we take the next one again into it. We pull all through, and ta-da, we're done. Done with the 7th row, front and back. This is the back. Done with the 7th row, okay? So we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The back side. In the front side, we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're done with our 7 rows. So for the 8th row, you put your stitch marker on the 4th stitch, and you have to work on 20 stitches. For the 9th row, you put your stitch marker on the 3rd stitch, and you have to work on 22 stitches. So for when we go to the 10th row, we should have 24 stitches waiting for us to work on it for the 10th row. So when you're done, your 9th row should look like this. So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you'll notice that on the 9th row, you stitched on the 3rd stitch, so you're left with 2. And here too, you were left with 2. However, if you look at this, you already find it at the end. So the 10th row, if you want to follow the same logic, it should be telling you to do your increases on the 2nd stitch. So you see, you just can't do an increase at the same point where you'll be doing your decreases at the end. So for the 10th row, we do not have to do any increases anymore. So if we're not doing increases on the front, we're not doing decreases on the back. We just stitch through normally by starting this one, doing a decrease here. We'll do our decrease here because we did a decrease on the back here. So we start on the 2nd stitch here, and at this end, we'll do our decrease again and come back. So when we come back, that will be the end of the 10th row. Okay, and the 10th row is our very last row. Okay. So let's get started. So this is what you want to do on the second. Okay. So you see here. So you basically don't need your stitch markers anymore. You just keep going. And at the extreme end, you do your decrease on the last 2 stitches. Do your decrease. So you keep going. So what you have to do is put your hook onto this part. Put your hook onto this part. Pick up your yarn. You put it in, you take it out on the back part, and then you come here, send it through the initial loop, pull this part, and there you go. So you should have something back like this. Okay, so normally, because we'll still come and go through here, so when we come and go through, I'll put it at this point and I'll sew with it being under, so there's no need for me to try to hide it. Okay, so we're going to hide it while we'll stitch. When we reach here, you automatically hide in here, so at this point we're fine. So what we want to go ahead now and do is to start our stitches on this point, which will be the edge. So like this, you will be starting the same side of the stitch marker. Okay, you will be starting at this point. At this point, okay, so we're starting right here. So I want to go ahead and take the yarn. So at this point, remember where we had the fold row before starting to do the decreases on the feed row. So at this point is where you're going to put your hook, okay, and the back facing the front. We always start on the facing the front. So I want to go in now, pull my yarn. So I'll put this in so I can hide it. So at this point, I hold it together and I start. Put my first stitch, stitch through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So you should have 12 stitches on this side. 12 stitches, okay? You should have 12 stitches. So when you have 12 stitches, you want to go ahead now and continue. So what you do is when you come here, this is where we had to tie. So you take the last 2, just like this, pull through, and you keep going. So, and I'll put this extension at the center because I want to hide it. So just like this. So this is what you should be having. You keep going up till the end. So keep going up till the end, and I'll show you what you need to do. So basically the same thing, because you did 12 stitches here, you also need to do 12 stitches on this other side. So just keep going till the end. Then at the end, we'll do it again together. So here we are at the end. And just as a reminder, you're not doing any decreases anymore. So these are normal stitches at this end and normal stitches at this end, no decreases. Okay, normal stitches. So we're done with decreases. It was just for the body of the bag. So at this point now, we need to go down. So just as we did, it should be 12, okay? So at this point, we want to do just not the back loop here, but the front loop, just as we've done. But since we do not have two loops up and down, we just take the back one, just as we did for the very first foundation stitch. So take only those front loops, front loops. Oh, I took this, whereas we had two. So at this point, I'm taking this and the first, okay? So we keep going just like this. So because we have two now here, we'll take up and down, loop up, loop down, we pull through, go through, loop up, loop down, we pull through. So we keep going like this until we reach at this other end. Then at that end, at this end, we should just do only the front loop two down here. So at this end, we'll do the front loop down this way, front loop. But here, up, down, pull through, we do our single crochet. Here, we just do our single crochet on this side. Okay, the same way we've been doing it. And then we turn. So at this point, see, we just have one stitch. So we take the front loop, we go through, So we do our turn stitch, and from here we should have 2 loops. Okay, we do have 2 loops now, so we'll go back in, up and down. So just like that, we'll come back to do the bottom, and then we come back again to this end. Come back to this end. So let's go. It's just the same thing, up and down until you reach the other end. So you should be here now, and at this point, this is how your back should look like. So this 1/2 already of the back, a complete half. We're done with our increases. However, if you want the bottom of the back and the edges to be a little bit bigger, you can go ahead and add rows as you wish. But for the purpose of this tutorial, we're ending here. So let me show you from the other side, since I did the other one already, how you're gonna take it right in. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to hide this on this side because this is the wrong side. So we want to hide this in. Okay. So you're at this point, right? You're at this point, so you want to take it in. You want to hide this because you just need the string on one side. So what you want to do is put your hook on the back side right here, so you can come out up here. Then you pull this, pull it through it, and on the back, just like this, you go through this one and then this one. Sometimes you just want to take off this completely, you know, because it being inside makes it hard to take off when you're done. And then you pull this through. Should have something like this. Then at this point, you want to bring it back here. And there you go. So you should have something like this. But now, since this will actually be the front side, back side of the work, and this is the front side of the work, we don't want to keep it here. So better still, rather than sending it over here, you can just bring it down in here. And you pass it through. And you pass it through here. Okay. So what you're doing, you're just trying to hide it in, because you don't need it. Okay. You could use a smaller hook because it'll be smoother to go past through it. So at this point, this is what I have. It actually still extends up to this end, but because I know even if I do end it here, it will still be hidden. I want to pull this a little bit out. Then I make this row, this yarn shorter than it was visible. So when I pull it back in, it will go back inside. You see, it's hidden inside, so it can be seen. And this is the front part, and this is the back part of it. So even if it is seen here, it's fine because you'll be inside. So this is what you should have at this point. You should have this. So taking the other end, so it looks like this. So you want to place them together, but with the stitch markers inside. So you place them this way. So you should have something like this. Place it this way for you to attach it now. So we're going ahead now to attach. So the stitch markers are inside. Like that's an easy hook to know which side to put. So the stitch markers inside. If you did as we've been doing since the start, your stitch markers will be in the same position all through. So this is it, and now we go ahead to stitch this in. So to begin, I would recommend you pay keen attention. So you're going to take this. Remember, the one with the yarn is the one on top, right? You're going to take this. So you're going to take this. You come to the other one below it. You pass it through the hook. You pass it through the stitch, the singular stitch. Then you come to the two double stitches. Not the double, sorry. The two double loops. So you pass it through the first loop, because the one down is just one loop, but up we have two loops. Remember, we used to take the inner loop up here and this outer one, but here we're taking all of the two above and this one behind. So we're taking everything, and you come across to the next one. Make sure you take the very first one. Remember, you didn't do a turn stitch, so this is still your first stitch. So don't be confused and think the first one is your turn stitch. You didn't do a turn stitch here before starting, so this is still your first stitch, another turn stitch. Then you come now to this one. So what you'll be doing is you take a half loop here, double loop, half loop. Okay, so let me take this in. That should be your very first stitch. Okay, so we go half loop, double loop, half loop. Okay, you go again, half loop, double loop, half loop. So you should have three loops you're going through. Okay, 3 loops, you're going through 3 of them at the same time to hook your yarn. This is a half loop, this is a double loop, this is a double loop, and this is a half loop again. So each side has 3, so the board makes 6 loops. So that's how you keep going. You keep walking in this way until you are at the other end. And this is already one of the last steps of completing your bag. Okay, so this is the last steps of completing your bag. So if you're doing this, you should be having this pointed edge. You see the pointed edge? It's coming. So you keep going just like this up until the end. Half loop, double loop, half loop. Half loop, double loop, half loop. Just keep going. So you keep going this way, keep going this way until you reach the very end right here. So you hold this together and it should look like this. Okay, it should look like this. So just keep going. Just keep. So this is, at this point, this is what you should have. This is what you should have. So with these pointed ends, so you want to go ahead. So here you won't need to do a 10 stitch, you just need to go ahead and cut your yarn. I always like my yarn a little bit longer so I can be flexible when I put it back in. So at this point, you're good at this point. So you just take it off and you want to turn it back in. Okay. You want to take it in and hide it. And take your yarn in and hide it. Basically like this. Don't be scared, it won't come out. So I guess you might be scared like, oh, the strings might come out, and nah, it doesn't come out. It's very elastic, as you may know. It's very elastic. So I'm trying to put it to go as far in as I can before I cut it to make it shorter, because I don't want the end lingering in the bag. So I'm trying to avoid all of that. That's why I always have to take it real far before I can cut it and it goes deep into the bag. So this is the actual length of it, but I want to pull it more because I want to cut it and it goes like it sinks back into the bag. See, it disappeared. It disappeared, right? So this is how the inner part of your bag should look, exactly like this. This is how the inner part of your bag should look. This is the outer part. So what we need to do now is turn it. Okay, inside out. That's what we need to do. Inside out. Inside out. Your beautiful bag is about to reveal itself. And ta-da! Here you go. Here you go. Perfect. 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 You're ready to go. So you take off your stitch markers. At this point, you no longer need them. Take it off. You no longer need it. So you see the ends of the bag. To me, this is big enough and sufficient. It's dancing, so you need to straighten it up. So it's big enough and sufficient for me. However, you might want it bigger, but that's how it looks. This is how your bag looks. See the bottom part? You see, and this is the inner part. You see the line at the center? This one was the pointing edge. It looks so beautiful. It looks so beautiful. And here we go. So you're ready to do yours. Improvise. Increase your stitches. Just follow the same pattern, okay? And this measurement should go, let me see in centimeters. We should have 15 centimeters by 15 centimeters by 19 centimeters by 29 centimeters. 15 by 29. So it should fit perfectly in your wardrobe. Perfectly. Anywhere. You can always have it anywhere. It doesn't take extra space. It's just sufficient. Here you go. It's your bag. Okay. This is your bag. This is your bag. Ready. Ready. Thanks so much for being with me, for walking through, and I hope I can see your own creations too. Just drop me a comment about any questions. I'll be very much happy to help and for clarity, to clarify you if you have doubts about anything or you get missing along the way while following the pattern. I'm here for you as you've been here for me watching. Okay, thank you. See you in the next video. Thank you. Stay connected. I'll try my best to give you more and more tutorials of easy patterns and beautiful creations like this.